Hello and welcome to All About Billings. We are a show dedicated to discovering the people who make Billings a great place to work and live. We will interview local business people, entrepreneurs, artists, entertainers, and community leaders, and we will learn from their successes, their failures, and their connection to Billings. I'm your host, Nancy Brooke, broker and owner at Billings Best Real Estate, and today it is my pleasure to introduce you to my guest, Diana Larson. Now, Diana Larson is an insurance agent, and she has her own business, Diana Larson Insurance. Now, she has been in the industry, we were just talking about this, almost 40 years, and you know what? It's really hard to imagine since she's only 41 years old.
That's correct. You are correct.
I've known Diana since grade school. We actually grew up together in Laurel, and we have a lot of fond memories of our days back in Laurel High School playing basketball together. But today we're going to hear all about her career, how she got started in insurance, and really what she thinks about Billings and all the changes that have happened over the past, my goodness, 40, 50 years? Okay, Diana, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Nancy.
Well, you know, let's start at the beginning. So you grew up in Laurel. What do you remember about those days in Laurel? And I guess what the community was like then versus how things are now, and the broader community,
Yeah.
Billings and Laurel and all of Yellowstone Valley.
Laurel in particular is a tight-knit little community, and everybody knew everybody, and I still feel that way about even Billings. You can't really go out about town without somebody saying, hey, do you know so-and-so? They're doing this. Well, when we were growing up in Laurel, everybody knew everybody's children, so your parent probably got a phone call if you were up to no good on the street corner. So Billings is even still overgrown little cow town, I feel like. It still is tight enough that I feel like I really know my community still.
Yeah, well, that's good. And you know, one other thing I would say is just how much the growth has happened. I mean, I remember, you know, between Laurel and Billings, it was a bunch of pastures and, you know, we'd see cows,
Yep.
crops. There
Yeah.
certainly weren't a lot of houses, and now
No.
it's almost combined.
That's what they said. I remember our government teacher telling us in high school that, in short order, Laurel and Billings will be one, and it's happening fast now.
Yeah, well, in 72nd, that used to be way out.
Way out.
64th was way out.
Way out.
And now there's all sorts of developments happening on the west part of Billings.
So many, yep.
So, you know, when you started in insurance, so obviously we had our fun days playing basketball. We used to be, those of you who don't know, Laurel used to be called the Dieselettes. The girls' team was the Dieselettes. They weren't the lady locomotives.
Oh.
When I tell people that, they laugh. And then the other funny part is when we were in middle school, we were called the Toots. So anyway, we'll fast
bury that
forward
in the past.
and all of those troubling times.
Yeah.
But after high school, you got involved in insurance. What drew you to that kind of industry?
You know, I went to college in Kansas, and then I moved to St. Louis, and I just got recruited by a company that is no more, but if you're old enough like I am, you'll remember the commercials for Wausau Insurance,
Yeah.
WAUSAU, and Wausau Insurance recruited me, and I really started out in their microfiche department, basically looking for forms to feed to customer service reps when they would order somebody's documents. I'd spin a reel around and find the right thing and start there, and I just moved my way up through the company to claims, and then eventually headed up their first ever outbound call center for customers. So just found my passion there. Just loved hunting for customers at that point.
Huh. And so that was the first call center? That's
Yep.
almost hard to believe, isn't it?
Yep, absolutely.
Huh. And so then you ended up, you had a change of life, and you ended up back in Billings.
Back in Billings.
Yes, where
And
obviously this is home.
Yeah, I started selling Medicare supplements, working in the Medicare supplement market, and I met a super cool State Farm agent, and I hope he doesn't get a big head when I call him that. I'm not going to use his name, so he won't get pats, but he said, why don't you come do work for me? And so 17 years I worked for him, and we grew his business. He was 24, I was 25, and we grew his small little book of business to a great, it's a great business. He has a great business now, and he's still probably one of my best friends. But yeah, I was there for 17 years.
Well, and I remember you were working so hard in the business and growing the business, and it was really a team effort. And then somewhere along the line, you had this inkling like, maybe I should do this for myself.
And people tell me that all the time, you should do this. And I was like, oh, I'm good here. I don't want to do this. And he and I laughed that one day he took me outside and pointed out that it was his name on the sign and not mine, and that maybe it was time for me to spread my wings. And I started going down that path with State Farm to look into, it started off as what they call a look-at agency, and I was just going to look. And then I had to do a business plan and a candidate structured interview with 12 people around a table, and they weren't going to choose me, and that was as far as that was going to go. And then they chose me, and it just was one step after the other where, well, I'm just going to look, see, and the next thing I know, I'm opening an agency.
Well, and I remember you were a little bit hesitant about moving forward with your own agency. You didn't like that idea of risking.
Right. I worked in the business of spreading risk and mitigating risk. So risk is not, I would say I'm more risk adverse than prone to risk, but I'm also a little bit hard to manage. So working for someone else was probably not going to be on the table.
Right. So just, you figured that was the way you had to move to advance your career, even though you had reservations.
Yep, absolutely.
So what was it like? I mean, I can only imagine you'd work for somebody else, now all of a sudden you're responsible, and I'm sure there's a lot of expenses in starting up an agency. That must have been scary.
It was very scary. Especially you don't want to let your family down when you're starting a business, and you have other families depending on you because you employ people, and you don't want to let those people down. And and I took the biggest risk of all, because there's two ways to start a State Farm agency. One is an agent retires or passes away, and State Farm gives you a book of business and you go work that. Or the riskiest way in my vision is a new market or a scratch agency where you just open a business with no customers. So someone who's very risk adverse, I chose the riskiest way to go, which is just open with no customers and go find. I was back in that customer hunting mode, and I think is my comfort zone, is finding my customers, my people, the people I want to do business with that want to do business with me. So it was expensive. And some days I worried that I was going to let somebody down, but I never looked back, and I just charged ahead every day.
Well, so you didn't do the scratch because you just really wanted to find your own.
I did the scratch,
you
the
did
new
the scratch.
market.
You didn't do the retired.
Nobody was retiring.
Okay,
and
you didn't want to wait.
I didn't want to wait, and I'm not great at waiting. And when I know I want to do something, I have to go forward now.
So how was that first year? Because that must have been incredibly scary.
Incredibly scary, writing enough new business every month to cover your expenses. I did have a line of credit to, make payroll, and I always had payroll staggered so that it was 5 days after I got paid by State Farm. And that gave me 5 days to figure out how I was going to pay my staff if my check wasn't big enough. How was I going to, where's the money, how was I going to do that? And so it was very stress-inducing and very, a lot of up at 4 and down at midnight and up at 4, looking again, starting all over, starting my day early, at the office early. And and who could we quote, and what could I do today to find my customers. So.
What was it like, and you did some managing of staff when you were with the other agent, but what was it like managing staff as the boss?
Exactly. I thought I knew what it was like managing staff and managing all the other aspects of a business. The last thing I got to do every day was the part of the business that I signed up for, which was customer outreach, sales, meeting with customers. I had so much administrative stuff to manage that they tell you it's there, but until you're doing it, you do not know. And a decision-making process that I'm going to make this decision and everybody is relying on me to make the most right decision. That was from spending marketing dollars to making a hire to closing the door for a holiday. Is it the most right decision? And having to get over that decision-making paralysis analysis, wanting to do the most right thing for the most amount of people.
Well, and just you think about, you have payroll, plus, you can't just, a lot of people can operate from home. An insurance agent typically will have an office, so people can stop by. You have that expense, you have internet, you have computers, you have to have office furniture.
Yeah, furniture, and if you do, take on any debt, you've got to service that debt now also on top of everything else. And how best to spend your marketing dollars, especially in a new market or scratch agency. You spend a lot in marketing to bring in the business while you're out also you're in the community looking for the business. So the spend was incredible and the administrative stuff was incredible. It was surprising.
How did you keep your head above water?
I don't even know. I look back at those times and wonder if I was insane or what was happening. I did have a little bit of a health glitch because of the stress, but getting that under control and worried that I, was doing worse things to my family than better things, and then networking with other business owners going through a lot of the same thing who kept going regardless of adversity. I think it's when we shut down and stop that overwhelming will just take over, and I just never shut down. That's the one thing I never did. I never shut down and let all that negativity come in and overtake me, and it could have at any minute. But I just kept going forward because I knew this is what I wanted to do, and I know I love what I do. I just needed to get to the part where I could love it again, and
you bring up a good point, because a lot of times we get into difficult situations and it's really easy to have that negative voice overtake the desires and the drive, and all of a sudden you're feeling like, maybe I should give up. This is futile. Why don't I just go get a job? What was I thinking? How did you counter those negative thoughts?
Well, looking at it, like, am I digging a bigger hole and a bigger hole? And I was digging a bigger hole in sometimes. I was digging a bigger hole, but I had to be logical and look at the practicality of the numbers, what I was doing long term, and not let short-term losses or short-term stress dictate the whole future.
Right.
And that was the thing, is that whenever I would get so stressed like that, is I would sit down and look at all the numbers I knew to look at everything I had to look at and project out and go, no, you're okay, we're okay. You have to get up tomorrow morning and lead this team again. We're going to lead the team every day. The projections don't lie. What you're looking at is the truth, and it's, not letting all that negativity come to the front, keeping it back here. Don't let it be in your vision. Stay with your vision, I would say.
Yeah, that's really a great lesson for anybody in business because, there are hard times.
Yep.
But if you stay the course, and of course you don't just want to be, dreaming in your mind
No.
and not really looking at what reality is.
Yeah.
But if you're looking at reality and you're staying the course and you're seeing what's happening, then you need to put blinders on a little bit.
Absolutely. I was in a meeting early on at a State Farm meeting, an agency meeting, and an agent that's a good friend of mine was sitting next to me, and we had our laptops open, and it was close to payday, so we could see what our paychecks were going to be. And he was 6 months behind me, but he took over a book of business in a small town, and we opened up, and he opened up his to look at his paycheck, and so I looked at mine, and I think I owed State Farm $467, something like that. And he looked over at my paycheck and he said, "What is that?" And I said, "That's my paycheck." And sometimes I was proud of that because I had spent so much marketing dollars with State Farm in direct mail and all the stuff that we could do through them, besides what I was doing on my own, that I would, I hadn't projected that. That was not the plan, but he was given that. And he was working it, and he's a great person also. But I knew I was building something, and so I chuckled to myself that I owed the company $467, but it was painful, and I knew I had payroll in 5 days. I had to figure it out where we were going to get that. But I'm to this day, I'm really proud of that negative paycheck. It taught me a lot. I learned a lot about how my spending and my marketing dollars and how to run my business efficiently now. So.
Right. And I know, just finding the right team members is always important.
Always.
And I think you've learned a lot with recruiting and selecting, not just based on their skills, but also kind of their fit with your environment, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Who they fit with the team. The team ultimately has the last say because they're their teammate. They have the final say on the hire, but we're looking for somebody who we've narrowed down who we're looking for. We're looking for good, nice people. I mean,
Okay.
Good, nice people who are three things: hungry, humble, and smart. We feel like that fits our culture. We're hungry, we're humble, and we're smart. And you don't have to have much else. I can coach and teach and train to everything else, but for good, nice people who are hungry, humble, and smart, they're going to do great with us. They're going to do great with us.
And I know you never really brag, but I mean, you came from just starting this agency, and I mean, you are one of the top agencies
Absolutely.
in Montana.
Yep.
I mean, that's quite a
2009
testament.
we opened, and it wasn't yesterday, but it feels like. And I feel like starting that new market way or that scratch way is what keeps you hungry, humble, and smart. That's why we're still growing, and we're not just sitting with our book of business, and we do a great job of servicing our book of business. My team, they get so many rave reviews on Google. They do a great job of taking care of our customers, but we still grow. We're still growing, and we're still on the hunt. We're looking for our people, and that's what we call them. Where's our people? We want to find more of our people. And I
love that.
I have customers that are with me since the day I opened my door in 2009, and I'm just thrilled. And whatever I can do for them to make it easier, and we can do things like pay claims right in my office, and so I think that helps.
Well, and it also is nice when you have that relationship because they feel like they can trust you to help navigate when you have a claim through, State Farm.
Yep.
So that makes a big difference.
Absolutely.
One of the things you talked about is just kind of your growth challenges. What would you say has been the most challenging part of having a business? I mean, maybe not just at the beginning. Is there anything that you would say is something that you really didn't anticipate? Maybe you failed at it and you learned from it?
I would say the hardest thing, and the thing that I didn't learn until maybe just even 3 years ago, is paying myself. Making sure that I got paid, and then working down from there, expenses, learning how to manage that budget, because for so long, I was able to, thanks to my family, my spouse, my husband, I was able to take everything I had and throw it right back into the business. And that works for me, but at some point, it's not rewarding. Mm-hmm. If you're not bringing home a paycheck regularly, consistently, what you can depend on, you will lose your passion for, you have to reward yourself at some point. And I had to learn that budgeting lesson, a big budgeting lesson. And I think budgeting was the hardest thing I had to. I can run numbers and return on investment and close ratios and all kinds of things all day long. Budgeting was the last thing I decided to learn, and it should have been the first thing I learned.
What would you say has been one of your greatest successes?
My people, the people that work for me and the people that are my customers. The agent I worked for used to have customers that came in to see us, just pop in to say, hey, what's happening? And some days that can be not great. You're busy, and you're the customer service rep, you're the sales rep, you're everything, and so you're like, this is great. I love to see you, but I can't today. When you open your scratch agency, you don't have any customers. Suddenly you go, I wonder if I'll ever have anybody who wants to come in and just to see us. I really miss that. I'm happy to say I have customers that come in and hang out, and now I really appreciate it. It may be busy. That's why I keep a fridge full of snacks out front for them. I keep ice cream bars in the front. Come in, just pop in and get your ice cream. Say, hey, we want to see you. I promise you, I want to see you. I love my customers. My customers are everything. I just love my customers. That's the greatest reward I have, is people trusted me, continue to trust me. They want to see me on the daily. I can't get out and see everybody on the daily, but there's people who want to see me daily, and I want them to know I want to see them daily. Come on in. So that's probably the thing I'm most proud of, is my customers.
Well, it's fun to see how that came full circle.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you enjoyed it, but you were like, I got work to do.
I was busy, I got work to do, and I can't, and now it's like, and maybe my team are rolling their eyes now. I don't know, but I love it personally. So
let's talk a little bit about the business community in Billings. What do you think has transitioned as we've started getting all these people in from all over the country? Have you seen any changes? Because you deal with a lot of people coming here from other places.
Other places, and it's very interesting to see how many people, they're coming from everywhere. Though they're coming from, it was the West Coast coming in, and we really have to onboard those people and really teach them how to be a Montanan, which is, we want to see you. You can text me, you can email me, you call me, but we want to see you too. So I have a program called Good Neighbor Connect that I can do even video reviews and talk to them about their policies through. People that are coming from these bigger cities, they never went to see their agent. Mm-hmm. They called their agency, they don't know who they are, and so it's a different kind of thing. And I want to see you, I want to know you, I need to know what's happening in your life, so we have the right risk, we have the right coverage in place for you. Who are you? What's happening with you? And they're kind of, I think that's been expressed a few times too, that this is so odd. And so odd. Well, it's Montana. We do wave and say hi. I mean, any road you go up and down, even in town or out of town, you get the wave. Down a neighborhood street, you get the wave. I don't know everybody on every street I go down, but when I pass a car, you get the hand wave, right? So yeah, it's kind of the Montana way, and teaching them the Montana way. That's what we want to do, is let them know that we care, we're interested, and we're here to help. So that's been one of the bigger, is onboarding customers from other places that do business different. And we can do business differently here, but also
Sure.
we want to know your family.
Yeah, and you're okay if somebody just wants to
Absolutely.
go online, sign
You
up.
can go online and
Yeah.
sign up, absolutely. We're going to call you and see if we can just video chat you, though, or, say, hey, who we are, and by the way, there's some ice cream bars at the office if you're driving by, so we're going to eat them all if you don't come in and do it, so, yeah.
So what would you say if somebody's looking to start a business in Billings, what would be some key things they need to have as part of a business owner?
Market research. When I opened my agency, we'd had a few rough years. State Farm didn't have the greatest prices. I've been in this long enough to know that price changes, everything changes. So you have to understand your market, though. What does your market need? Does your market need another State Farm agent? Some people go, absolutely not. There's one on every corner, but I say absolutely they do. So what is the need in your market? What are the demographics? Who are you trying to reach? And how do you want to reach them? How do those people want to be contacted? That's the other thing is how do they want to be contacted, and what does your market support what you want to do? And then having a line of credit, but understanding debt, budget, how you're going to spend that money. And just because you have a great idea doesn't mean you're going to be able to implement that great idea if there's a whole bunch of administrative stuff swirling around your head you have to take care of too. Who's going to do what? I mean, you really have to write a business plan for yourself down to who's going to do what, when. I was very detailed about that, and State Farm was very helpful with your business plan is way vague. Get on it. Who's going to call? When are they going to call? How are they going to call? Who are they going to call? So really narrow down your business plan to exactly what you're going to do and who's going to do it, all of that. I think that's key, is understanding. You hear you need to write a business plan, so you just throw something together for a bank or for somebody, but no, you need to write a business plan for yourself, not for anybody else, so that you understand your business and what you're going to do.
Wow. Well, that's really good advice. I think a lot of people get into business and they're not necessarily the greatest at growing a business.
Right.
Maybe they have a good idea and it makes all the difference. Well, say I told you this time would fly by. We are at the end of our half hour here. Whew, you made it. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
I loved hearing all of this about your business. I've known you for a lot of years, but haven't heard this part. And folks, it was great seeing you today. I'm Nancy Brooke, Billings Best Real Estate, and hope to see you next time.